We love a strong tea.
Coffee tea.
That's the pod.
That's a wrap.
And that's it. And we're done.
Welcome to The Vault with Financielle. This is a safe space where we talk all things life and money and no topics are off limits. Howdy.
Morning.
Howdy.
Howdy.
This ain't Texas.
No, it's definitely not Texas. Thank God.
My daughter did a dance show and she did a Cotton Eye Joe. And she had like this red cowboy hat that had no glitter on it. And the dance teacher said, "Can you put some glitter on it?" And so my husband saw a challenge and said, "We will glitter this hat." Glitter everywhere in my house now. Like every shower I have, because it's like you can see the bits so that they're just bits of red glitter. But he glittered and glittered and glittered. So the whole thing is glitter.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
That's incredible.
But Albie loves the Texas song.
Yes.
Will not use the cowboy hat for it because that's for Cotton Eye Joe. I was like, well,
You're like, please give it me.
like, come on, let's have a play.
I'll have a go.
That
Need
is for
another
Cotton
one?
Eye Joe. You do not use that for Beyonce.
How disappointing.
We've got props in our house and we can't use them.
Maybe we make our
gosh.
own Financielle pink one.
I'm done for that. In the office.
Next pod, you're going to see us all sat there.
Yeah.
Fresh out of a
Line
Taylor
dancing
Swift
on
concert.
from the side.
Okay. Controversial opinion time. Maternity leave should be fully paid for at least a year.
You speak to mothers who've been on maternity leave who will obviously say, yes, that's a great idea. But what do you mean? Do you mean the government? Do you mean employers? Like, what do you mean by should be paid by whom for a year before we get angry comments?
I'm going to say employers.
Employers.
Yeah. I feel like that's long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's lovely and ideal. But I feel like it's probably long. I've been on 3 maternity leaves. The first one, I got 6 months full pay. And then like your holidays and stuff as well. And then it reverts to statutory. And that was so welcomed. Like first baby, you don't even know what the hell you're doing. You know, that you'd only just kind of got used to that salary because it was quite, you know, I was fairly young, and that was really important at that time. The second one, even though it was then 6 years later, was awful, like a rubbish maternity policy. I had way less money on my second maternity leave than I did on my first, and I got paid double. And so if you think about it, like, your expenses have gone up as you getting older, and you have more responsibility. It had a child in, you know, having wraparound care and school costs and stuff, and that was like when you suddenly drop to the statutory, it's so hard. I just don't know how anyone thinks that families can function, because families have to function on 2 salaries nowadays typically. When someone's in when people are single parents, I just don't know how they do it. I'm so impressed constantly, especially if they don't get, you know, the proper help, or you've got 2 single parents, like, you know, typically dad and mum trying to navigate running 2 different households. It's so difficult. So the idea that, you know, so you can suddenly drop to 1 salary when you're off maternity leave is really hard. The third one was when I was at Financielle, so it was like I had a short maternity leave, but I could be really flexible at least as well. So that one kind of doesn't count because that was obviously our business. But also, I think it is really important that employers offer that paid time, because it's for a period of time. It's not forever, and you end up retaining staff a lot better than if you don't, because like you've just given back to someone at that time when they're in that time of need.
Yeah, so I think a year is probably unrealistic for a lot of employers, especially, you know, we worked in an industry where it was quite female heavy. That would be quite, I imagine, a financial burden on a company. And also now I'm out of that maternity leave bubble, because when you're in it, you're like, I should get this. Let's not beat around the bush. Like, you feel very entitled because obviously you're in that situation. You know you're going to suffer financially. So you're very passionate about making sure that you get the best deal. But when I reflect now, I've got 2 older children. Children isn't on the cards for everybody. And they might want to do other things in life that's like a bit of a passion project for them.
Sabbaticals, travel.
Should they not get the same treatment in terms of like, you're
Some
going to have a
support.
baby because that's your choice, or not? sometimes. It can be thrust upon you. It kind of wasn't planned, but you're going to be given that opportunity to have that break and dedicate your efforts into kind of growing this child and building up a family. It might not be for everyone, and I'm much more empathetic towards people that don't have children and their passions and what they want to do and whether an employer will support them. So I'm much more balanced about it now. Ask me years ago, I'd have been like, yeah.
Do you know what's funny though? We've got friends who've had like unplanned children or children later, and they've gone, I was not as nice to people with children as I should have been, where they've seen the other side of what it's like to run a budget on a statutory maternity leave, what it's like when they're nurturing you every day because something's happened.
The emotional turmoil.
Going back to work early. I think that's what I hate. I think that I love it when people have, this is why we do what we do, because if we can help people get on this financial well-being path, even in the cost of living crisis, even when things are tough, we talk about sinking funds. And what I really love seeing in our community is when people make that plan to try to become parents and pause their financial goals, like they stop being as intense, they stop being as like, you know, maybe aspirational and go without on other things, like they might not travel as much, they might not buy these big homes because they're like, we know that's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I want to get there and not feel like we're struggling. And so they build the pot before they even have the child. And then when they've had the child, they've got money to sustain them and top up the budget where perhaps an employer can't fill. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, because it's quite a vulnerable time. I think we have talked about it in the past. On maternity leave, you constantly feel guilty for spending money. You constantly feel like you don't have enough. You constantly feel like you're out all the time because you just need to get out the house because it's really, truly very difficult. And you could become a victim of, I'm just going to stay and not spend any money. And that's just not good for anybody. So we have community members, like Laura said, that have said we're going to start trying for a baby and build these funds up. And the joy that those people have on maternity leave, you can tell because it's just one less stress to take off.
Yeah, and it's the same for like, you know, if you're saving for a sabbatical or for travel or for a trip, doing it where you're in control. But the big thing that is much more common now, Lucy, but wasn't for us not that long ago, was shared parental leave.
Yeah.
So there's so much about the like gender pension gap and gender pay gaps and stuff all connected around this time of maternity leave and coming back from maternity leave. And there's so many men that just get that 2 week. And I feel for them so much because that was completely the norm. In fact, many people like wouldn't even take the full 2 weeks. And couldn't afford to take.
Or they'd take 1 week paid, 1 week unpaid. That used to be really common.
Yeah, you didn't have the right holidays or like, and just like, I can't imagine. I mean, if you've got a partner that went through a C-section, like that's crazy enough, like that they need to recover and be looked after, and they've got to look after this baby. You can't drive
for 6 weeks. Like you cannot drive you were recommended not to drive for 6 weeks. So these poor women that have survived for years, you can't pick your baby up. It's painful to do so.
But you've got to do the school run with baby number one.
Yeah,
and
I put a wash on. Like, because your baby's sick on every bit of clothing that ever owns, just like can projectile vomit 3 meters in every direction. Everything
sounds like you speak from experience.
Everything needs washing every 5 minutes.
There's a really good family picture of Neil's got sick all down him, but none of us realised. It's like, oh, smile.
But that's, it's really, truly difficult. And now you have got the shared parental leave. And I know some really good HR directors that have moved mountains to try and accommodate women and maternity leave and paternity leave.
And they're not without challenge as well.
It's a thankless task because people at the top have possibly had children a very long time ago and they're like, oh, we're fat, they're over it
Can
now.
Can your wife not do that?
Yeah. Oh God, the comments.
But the fact now that men and women can have really good parental leave policies, and then dads can have that time with their babies and bond early. And it, like evidence shows that when that happens, it facilitates a much more joint sharing of the life admin and the unseen work, the unpaid work around the home. The baby isn't seen as the mum's job. It's seen as our job and we take it in turns. And likewise, having the woman being able to go back to work a little bit, if you want to do shared parental and not have the full year. So I think it's a little controversial. Maybe you didn't expect us to come down the side of it's a bit extravagant or a bit
I suppose a year
large. I felt the 6 month one for me was so good because I was able to save a little bit to top up for the last 3. And I think I took a year off with my first one, and I ended up 6 months paid and 3 months on statutory. and then 3 months unpaid. But because of the balance, I was able to kind of save and spread out. And to be honest, that's when my really good money journey kicked in, was when I was on maternity leave, because you shouldn't suddenly have to make the money stretch
further.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that and become budget nerds, like, you know,
Definitely.
lots of men, lots of women. But like I said, the thing for anyone, you know, whether you're planning for a baby, you know, we've talked about this before, same-sex couples, like if you're having children, it's IVF. So you have to work out how you're going to at least plan to pay for things like that. And we've always said on lots of topics here, cash is king. A good pile of cash gives you a shit ton of options.
Yeah.
When you've not got a lot, that is stressful. And so the more we can help people edge towards these like little pots of gold, then the world's your oyster. If you don't get a year's paid, 6 months paid, or any paid, and you just get the bare minimum, you've got your own back.
I like it. Okay.
But you're never having children because you work with us every day. And you're like, this is
I'm not going to lie, guys.
yeah, you're thinking of that sabbatical trip. That's what you're thinking about.
She's going to Greece to swim with turtles.
Dolphins?
Turtles.
Said dolphins.
There's dolphins in Greece.
Oh, actually, no.
It's giving 5 out of 10.
Not tortoises.
I'll go and find out.
Yeah. On a year-long sabbatical. Paid. Thank you.
Well done, Holly.
You've messed it up for us.
Okay. Speaking of children, dilemma number 1. Hi girls, my son has come home with a letter about his summer school trip that he's incredibly excited about. The trip costs £400 plus additional money for spending, which is something I really want to give to him. However, as a single mum, my finances are tight and I don't have enough saved up to cover the cost. The only way I can afford to send him is by dipping into my overdraft, which I'm very hesitant to do. I've worked hard to get to the point I'm at now, and it's been a long slog, but I'm just 4 months away from being debt-free. This trip means so much to him, and I don't want him to miss out on this experience as all of his friends are going, and I know I'd get major mum guilt. On the other hand, I'm so worried about taking on more debt and the impact it would have on my debt-free journey. I've worked out it would put me back 2 months. It's a tough balance between wanting to give my son opportunities and making sure we don't fall into a financial hole. What should I do? Should I use my overdraft to pay for the trip and risk the added debt? Or should I explain to my son that we simply can't afford it this year? Any guidance would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, this is such a difficult one. I've got a head and heart situation going on. My heart says,
Go on then.
My heart says just do it, because it sounds like you're such a good mum and you're so responsible paying off this debt. You're very in tune with how you think your son might respond, and you're sympathetic towards that as well if you were to say no. But sometimes, I hate the life's too short scenario, but my heart is saying it's too much. Like, she's worked it out. She's not just irresponsibly chucking stuff on a credit card. She's already modelled how far that will put her back. Difficult as a single parent. My advice would be, can you get any extra cash from anywhere to help fund it? Like selling things. We always talk about Vinted.
Family
Facebook
members might want to help
Marketplace.
contribute,
Do you
you know.
set up a GoFundMe? Like, I will give because I just want your son to go. But yeah, family members like grandparents and stuff, like, do you want to contribute towards his trip? My heart is saying, and I never do this, so everyone will be really shocked that I'm saying to take on debt, but I fully sympathise. I don't want the mum guilt to eat her up for life as well, and I feel like she sounds
Is mum guilt
the
powerful,
worst.
really?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's so many different elements to it. Like, your kid fitting in.
Yeah.
You know, if I went to a charity ball last week, and it was the Sadulo Foundation's Colour Ball, and they raise a lot of money for underprivileged kids. And Paul, the founder of the company and of the charity, was talking about the kind of things that they do, and they look after the poorest children in the country. And it's even things like they give goodie bags from like JD, because the JD bag is a status thing. Like, it's literally a crap plastic bag, but it looks like you've been and bought something from JD, and that's your peak. And like, you know, we've all been there, and they give Nike water bottles, and it's such a cost-effective gift to be able to give to a kid. But for acceptance, they can take it into school every day. It's a label, it's a thing. So you can imagine, like, if you don't want your kid to miss out on a trip, and it is so important to feel like your child's accepted. So if you feel like your child can't go, there's always a limit to stuff like that. Like this isn't a £2,000 ski trip, but is everyone going on this trip? Like this sounds a lot of money, £400 for a trip, a lot of money. I would also see about swallowing your pride if you've got pride and head into that school and have a chat, because there are always options that school have. They could spread out the payments for you and say like, can you make it in installments? Just because everyone needs to pay it this month, it might be because everyone's rubbish and they'll all forget. And so you may have the opportunity to pay it. They may have a fund at the school where they can help contribute to families, because I know that often happens. So a little bit you don't get. This is not something you're doing all the time. You are on a plan. You are getting control of your money. This sounds like a one-off. And so definitely like between asking friends and family if they want to contribute ahead of birthdays, or like for your birthday or for anything, selling things on Facebook Marketplace and going into school. You never know. You might get to a place where you can fund it. We don't want anyone going into debt for stuff. But there's probably some scenarios that like...
She's so in tune with the numbers. This isn't someone just being like, stick it on a credit card, it doesn't matter. She knows exactly what this will mean to her runway. And I feel like that in itself makes me feel like
it would be a blip.
Yes.
It would be the same. What we're doing though here is I think it's fair, we're treating the trip like the washing machine breaking, because that's what you do. She sounds like she's not got an emergency fund. Like this would, again, it's something that you go, is this an emergency? It possibly is. It's that level of, if this isn't all the time, if this isn't like a new thing every week, it sounds like something that you did not have the funds for. So regardless of what you intend to do, I think this is an even bigger sign that you need an emergency fund, and that pushes back your debt-free date, and that will annoy you. But this is what happens. You get into a situation where you feel desperate and stressed, and that's what your emergency fund's there for. Yeah. And delaying 1 to 2 months or 3 to 4 months, if she then pauses to build up an emergency fund, will mean she can leap forward in the future. And the best bit about all this, like when you can clear your debts, and even before then, like once you've got an emergency fund, you can start building these little sinking funds. And we've been caught short recently on a couple of things at the dance school.
School trips. We just got caught short. I had no idea a school trip was coming up, and we're not supposed to know that. Like school are planning things, and that's fine. But literally got by the way, there's a school trip in a few months' time. Can you pay the deposit by Friday? I'm like, whoa. Where did that come from? That technically
not in my budget.
That was never in my budget. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was coming.
You need to tell the rest of the story.
And then my husband rallied the troops because he thought it was really expensive and went in the parents' WhatsApp group. I'm going to speak to the school. This is really expensive. And he managed to get some money knocked off. So he's very, very smug at the moment, walking around the schoolyard like... You're welcome.
Queen of the PTFA.
You're welcome.
But again, you don't ask, you don't get.
No, the PTFA raise money. I'm in the PTFA at school, and so is Laura, and we raise money and funds to go to things for the school children. So they're definitely, I imagine if someone came to the PTFA and or the school came to the PTFA.
So there's a family struggling for this from trip.
You
it's
won't
like,
even think
no
twice.
problem.
You don't want anyone to miss out. And going to the school and asking, can they bring the price down? It works.
Yeah.
Try it.
So you do what you feel's right. No judgment, no financial jail.
It probably goes against our usual advice. That's why it's like head and heart job, because with our financial head, we'd be like, well.
No, the caveat is if it's like an emergency, if it feels like an emergency, like I said about if your car broke down and you had no emergency fund, you would have to use your overdraft. And so you have to get that emergency fund built up. But if you think this is an emergency and you think it's not like the bougie trip, it's just the one that everyone's going on and you feel he should go, pay for it and learn from it.
Also, single parent, is it worth, I don't know what the relationship is with the other parent, but if there is one, to be reaching out to them and asking to share the bed with
all
the
family members,
in-laws.
His parents. Yeah, everything. Okay, good luck.
Okay, community win time. Little win for me today. I reduced my credit limit so I can't rebuild the debt. I noticed a pattern that when there was a certain amount available to spend, showing I'd spend more without thinking too much. So I've paid off a huge chunk and then asked to reduce my limit by that amount so I physically can't start the cycle again. It's not a complete removal of credit cards, but for me, it's a massive step in the right direction.
I love this. How clever.
It's strategy over willpower, isn't it? Strategy over willpower is because if it's there, 9 days out of 10, you might be able to ignore it. That one day could be your Achilles heel and you undo a lot of work. And that is human nature. That is not because you're bad. So yeah, what a great idea.
Some really good tips recently in the community about debt payments. And I'm glad that they're getting shared amongst everybody. Like, I would never think to reduce the credit limit, so I can't do that again. It's like habit building, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah. And it's, you know, that's why we say once you've paid off a card, close
it's like cutting it up.
Yeah,
It feels like
cutting
that.
the corner off.
Yeah.
It's making it littler.
A little snip in the corner. But that's what it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it
very
does.
intentional. It's not like, I
Yes.
promise I won't use it again. I've decided I'm not going to use it again. No, I'm literally will not be able to.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
see like American films sometimes they put cards in the freezer?
No.
No.
For
What, like in
emergency?
a box?
Oh, and
So
they
that you
break
can't use it.
That's a good idea. I bet that would still work contactless.
That's
though.
me.
Take the block of ice.
Dripping everywhere.
Sucking on it in the
If
queue.
I want chocolate, I'm taking that block of ice with me. If it's
Got
an
the
emergency,
hairdryer on
chocolate emergency, sledgehammer.
I'm in a PCP agreement with my ex. Hi ladies, I could really use some advice about a tricky situation with my ex. 2 years ago, we bought an expensive camper van together, and I believe I'm the legal owner, though I gave him all the paperwork when we split. Since our separation, he has taken possession of the camper van, and he has been solely responsible for paying the monthly bills and all costs. I've mentally written off whatever I paid towards it previously. The camper van's PCP loan has both of our names on it, with me possibly being the primary name. Recently, I received an annual statement, and whilst he continues to make the payments, the looming debt worries me. It's a 5-year commitment. My question is, can I legally enforce the sale to clear the debt, assuming I am indeed the owner, despite not having the paperwork? Even if I am the owner, I suspect it will be a while before the camper van is worth enough to cover the debt. Is there a way I can extract myself from this situation? I haven't seen my ex or the camper van in over a year now, and I'm feeling quite stuck.
This is one I've never heard before.
It's always the camper van.
Fucking camper vans give me strength. How many people want to buy a camper van? Camper van manufacturers are
I want to know
absolutely
if the
rubbing their
staying
hands
in the
together.
camper van was the reason for the breakup.
Buying the camper van was a reason for the breakup.
Sounds like they were in love with it and someone got the child in the breakup.
Yeah,
You know,
it was
Yes.
giving like dog.
I've not seen them in a year. It's giving dog
Him or the camper van.
I haven't seen the camper van.
I'm taking the camper.
One time I saw him drove past.
I mean, first things first, you don't know if you own it. Come on.
Yeah, this is a lot of like,
Quite important that you know this.
This is big sister and lawyer time, being like, okay, let's find out what we own. And also, you sound pretty confident that you're on the PCP deal. You'll be able to see that with your credit agreement as well. So if you need to do a credit report, a free credit report online, have a little look. You'll know that. You'll know the loan. It sounds like you know a little bit of that already, but just know that. Because usually you would own it if you're on the PCP, because if it's bought at the same time together, you connect them both. Because what you don't want, obviously, is him owning it and you having the loan for it, because he could sell it at any point and you're still sat with this loan. It's really important you decouple from the loan as well as the relationship.
To a Gwyneth and a Chris.
Yeah, and
Conscious decoupling
because
of the camper van.
there's a constant ongoing risk that he stops payments, which impacts your credit. And there's and there's a risk that then you incur charges and interest and you're responsible for that. So it's just a situation. I think what's hard is the negative equity point. I mean, I thought that camper vans are worth a lot of money. Like, how annoying that it sounds like they've overpaid maybe, or she doesn't think the camper van is worth what the loan is. But you are going to have to do a little list and get ready and go back to your ex with a proposal, which is, it's really important that obviously I'm not on any documentation. If you want to keep it, you need to refinance. And so let me know when you've done that and buy me out of it. And you can say, I don't want any money for it. I've written off, the money that I put into it. Try for it if you want it, but otherwise say that's fine, but I want to be off this agreement. It makes sense for us both to be off this agreement. We're both at risk of each other defaulting and kind of putting a black mark. So hopefully you're in a place where you can do that. But this is why, even when you're together, it's just, you shouldn't, mortgage is probably the only thing where typically there's a couple of things. One, you both own the house is usually worth more than the loan. But this is why you get into the situation of like remortgages and buying someone out a house, because you don't want to be tied to a debt that you're not even in control of. Like I said, I don't think he could sell the camper van. Well, he could sell it like illegally kind of thing. But if he doesn't own it, if you own it, then you as the owner need to be the one selling it. But he could sell it. He could sell it to anyone, and it's not a good place to be.
I would want to be removed from that situation.
Me too.
You get no enjoyment.
Would it get
from
you
it
stressed?
Yeah, you're not even getting benefit of
Can I borrow
the
it?
camper van.
I'm going to
I
Cornwall.
want custody. I want joint custody of the camper van.
I bet he's trashed as well. That's not as cute anymore as well.
Well, yeah, and it's like it's important to try and tie up as many loose ends as possible financially when you end a relationship, because a year later to go crawling back and go, can you just sort this? You know, there's a moment of time where like you've now not got possession of it. You own it, but you've not physically got it, and you're in a finance agreement, and that's the same for everything. Like wherever is possible, don't get joint finance agreements on anything. I've seen it so many times where you have someone that's got better credit takes on a car loan for their partner, and then they just stop paying it and you're left with a car and you don't even actually physically have it. This is a really similar one. And it could be a loan for a partner because they've not really got good credit, and I've got a job, so I've got a loan out for them. And then suddenly you're in a point where you're left holding the loan baby. So look after your own finances. Try not to tangle them up too much in finance agreements. And where you have, you need to do. I did see I saw a TikTok where a girl showed a presentation that she'd done for her. I saw on TikTok this presentation that a girl had done, and she shared it, but she was saying, this is the presentation I did for my ex about us dividing our assets. And I was like, that is conscious uncoupling and whatever
finest.
Gwyneth and Chris did. It was like, so this is what we have. This is what I propose. You keep that money. I was like, this is mature separation of assets. And I don't think they were married either. I think they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. I think if a few more people did that, we'd all feel a lot better. How very mature.
Okay. Any final words before we close the vault today?
Don't buy camper vans unless you really, 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 really want one.
Or
And
buy
spend
a
a lot of
rubbish
time
van and do it yourself.
And don't finance it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, that's all for this episode. The Vault is now closed. And just a quick disclaimer, The Vault is just a chat around life and money topics. We are not giving financial advice.